This short video will explain some tips for understanding LGAP1004 requirements for traceability systems of operators and facilities. LGAP1004 is a new standard that has been developed by LGAP's program owner AniMark. AniMark has developed the standard following a request of the Australian Livestock Exporters Council. The standard is designed to enhance the performance of traceability systems and ensure that responsibility is equitably distributed through the supply chain. The project has been funded by the Livestock Export Program. LGAP 1004 applies to traceability system providers. It's designed to standardise traceability systems used in market, whether they are internal systems or provided by third-party suppliers. LGAP 1004 has been written to allow for voluntary adoption, but there is an opportunity for mandatory adoption if industry chooses to do so. Like all LGAP standards, LGAP 1004 is outcomes focused and does not prescribe one specific system or technology. It also allows for mob-based identification of sheep and goats. In order to allow the new standard to be effective, there are also some necessary updates to LGAP 1000, 1001 and 1002 that have been drafted for review. In accordance with best practice standard development, there is a public comment period of 60 days. This includes the new draft 1004 standard, as well as the marked up changes to the remaining LGAP standards. Please be sure to read the introduction, scope and new definitions before reading the body of LGAP 1004. There are some updated definitions provided in LGAP 1001 and changes drafted to LGAP 1001 and 1002 relate to ensuring personnel use the traceability system properly. Keep in mind that these are technical documents which are written in a very precise manner. When AniMark launches the standard, there will be additional guidance provided to support and enhance understanding. LGAP 1004 will be integrated into the existing LGAP framework. There are two pathways to achieve approval of traceability systems, depending on supply chain arrangements. If you have an internal system, you can voluntarily adopt to have your system approved under LGAP 1004. Alternatively, if you use a third-party provider, you may request them to have their traceability system approved under 1004. Third-party providers need to meet the requirements of 1004 and some provisions of LGAP 1002 management systems. LGAP 1004 has 8 sections, which detail the requirements to be met for certification. The requirements bring consistency to the information and data captured, collected and stored. For example, there are requirements to specify how animals and locations should be identified. There are also provisions as to how animal movement should be recorded and requirements for data storage and retention of records. The requirements enhance clarity as to what constitutes effective traceability. At the end of the standard, there are 3 annexes that provide further information relating to personal competencies of system provider personnel and how to conduct traceability exercises. LGAP 1004 has 3 key concepts. The first is around the system provider. A system provider can be operators and facilities who supply and use their own system or provide that system to other operators and facilities to use. Or a system provider could be an external party who provides only a system for operators and facilities to use. Or a system provider could be an external party who provides both a system and traceability services to an operator or facility. The second concept is that of the system. And now the system comprises of the business processes and rules, as well as the technologies, if any, that support the system. LGAP 1004 includes requirements to specify data formats and the outcomes to be met in relation to photos, videos, security, and timeframes for capture, collection, and storage. The third concept is the usage of the system. Users are different to system providers. Users of the system can be operators and facilities or external providers who are providing traceability services for an operator and facility. Usage requirements have been added into LGAP 1001 and 1002 to ensure that operators and facilities correctly use approved systems. These only apply in circumstances where they're using a system that's approved under LGAP 1004. It's important to understand that different requirements apply depending on the scope of activities. Some requirements apply to all system provider types. Other times, requirements may only apply to a subset of system providers, in particular those who are providing traceability services. The applicability provisions can be found in bold capital letters at the top and within each section of the standard. What's new with LGAP 1004? It really depends on your current traceability system. Just like other aspects of LGAP, 1004 provides more equitable distribution of responsibility for traceability through the supply chain. This means facilities need to have processes in place for monitoring and recording livestock movements. They cannot solely rely on third-party providers. There's also greater clarity for what effective traceability should look like. Requirements have been introduced to encourage a consistent approach to traceability activities. There are detailed descriptions regarding how movements are recorded, the timeframes for providing data, and data security. There's also detailed monitoring requirements which have been established to help detect and deter potential nonconformities. Another new element is that third-party providers of traceability systems can choose to have their systems approved under LGAP. And finally, under a conformity assessment program like LGAP, nonconformities are an opportunity for improvement. Participants have the opportunity to close out nonconformities and maintain the LGAP certification without incurring any disruption to their commercial operations. The 4 previous LGAP standards provide detailed provisions for traceability that help distribute responsibility through the supply chain. LGAP 1004 broadens the scope of LGAP to now apply traceability system providers who choose to participate. LGAP is written to be voluntary, but it could be adopted in a mandatory fashion if required. AniMark welcomes your feedback, which is requested to be provided on the prescribed form on the AniMark website. The AniMark Standard Committee will consider all feedback when it convenes following the public comment period ending. Thank you for your interest in the Livestock Global Assurance Program.